Ladies and gentlemen, Kirk Thatcher and Daren Doctorman, the Weirded Beardos.
As Daren, I was surrounded by Zambezi warriors and the flanks of tigers and...
Yes, of course you were, Kirk.
Yes.
That's
One thing
grand.
that saved me.
Grand.
Oh, the show started. I'll tell you later.
Welcome back to...
This is my loungewear.
It's got to
I'm
be
lounging
something.
today. This episode's I'm loungy.
You're a lounge leopard.
I'm a lounge leopard. That's exactly. I'm not a lizard. I'm warm-blooded and fuzzy.
Yes, but you're also wearing a leopard top.
What? Oh,
Oh,
look at me. So I am. You know, how often do you get to wear your leopard loungewear for friends? Speaking of friends, has anyone posted questions on our any of our chats that we could answer? I was thinking, oh yeah, viewer mail or viewer
no, not since the live stream.
on YouTube or on the YouTube channel. Nobody goes, hey,
Yeah,
hey, you guys.
Our 40-something listeners, who it may be describing their ages as well, are very laid back, and they don't seem to have any questions at all.
You
I'd
know
like
what?
to.
We answer all their questions about how
I'd like
stupid
to
I am.
entreat all of our listeners and viewers to ask us questions, engage the Weirded Beardos, and we will engage with you.
Please do. I've never been engaged. I wonder why.
Always a bridesmaid.
I'm like the Maytag repairman of love.
Wow, that's an outdated reference too. Jesse White, the Maytag repairman on television.
Who was the original Mr. Mushnick on Broadway, I believe.
I believe so.
Yeah. Although Vince Gardenia did a great job
In the Frank Oz movie.
in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah,
He was also great in Moonstruck.
of course.
What you got is what is garbage? What you got is cast iron. What is garbage? You never use it. I only use copper. It's so funny that's a great movie. If any of you have not seen Moonstruck, it's a movie where everyone shines, including Cher.
Cher shines.
Not that she's bad, but she's not known for being particularly a remarkable actress. She's good.
Right.
But in that movie, she shines. When she smacks Nick Cage, he goes, snap out of it.
Snap out of it. Yeah.
I love you. Snap out. It's a great movie. There's not one character in there you don't just enjoy watching.
I want to do a
Dance?
smash up of Moonstruck and Witches of Eastwick,
Ooh, that would be
and
good.
just keep Cher to be the thread that runs through them.
Yeah.
I think that would be fascinating.
I like that movie, the ending with the weird Jack Nicholson worm, and I know they couldn't really figure out what that demon thing was, so it ended up being that weird.
Yeah,
whatever.
The big blobby Jack Nicholson. I mean, more blobby than their actual Jack Nicholson.
Like a grub with Jack
Yeah.
Nicholson. Yeah, it was just weird. But that's what's a good movie like that is Practical Magic. That's and it's a chick flick, but it's good. And it's fun.
I think that's the reason I haven't watched it.
It's a chick flick or that's good.
That it's a chick flick.
I know. I thought it. I didn't go see it in the theaters, but a number of gal pals would just always say it's one of their favorite Halloween movies. I'm like, all right. So I watched it with one. I think I was dating her at the time, and we watched
That
it.
and Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus is more of a kids movie. Practical Magic is. It's a chick flick, but it's good. It's really well done. It's not too It's not too I don't know.
Women
Sappy.
love Hocus Pocus.
Oh, do they?
They do.
It's
don't
fun.
know.
I mean, I don't hate it. I just think.
No, I hate it. No, I don't hate it.
It's not deserving of hate. I could see if it's not your cup of tea, as they say.
A cup of cup
It's no more cup of steak.
of. That's a little My Fair Lady.
Oh, I was like, what in God's name are you doing?
What are you doing?
What are you doing, man? I do look like I should be in a VFW hall. Except maybe for this. The hat is the.
Well, you need to be in a
Zion
VFW hall,
martinis.
but you're in the corner on a wall in memorial.
Oh yes, in a Hawaiian shirt with a pipe. With this pipe actually, my pipe. This sit. What is it? Sit. This is not a pipe. Sit. This. What is it in French? This is not a pipe. The.
But it is a pipe, Kirk.
This
It
is a
is
pipe.
a pipe.
I was trying to be a.
It's time to pay the piper.
Yes, we all know where that comes from. Billy Piper, who played a companion on Doctor Who, was notoriously not paid for months, and so.
But she also played a prostitute in a TV
Yeah.
series on the BBC.
And she also played, I believe she was the bride of Frankenstein, so she was a dead prostitute in Penny Dreadful. I think that was Billy Piper.
Oh.
Yeah, it was. Yes.
Billy.
Pinky.
Billy Piper.
We were going to talk about what we're going to talk about.
We were
last
talking about.
episode.
We were going to continue our little discussion on storyboarding
Storyboarding. Yes,
Um,
the art of it.
because when I was coming up in the industry, I did storyboards a lot, and one of the things that I got taught was how to what they call back project from a plan and elevation, so that
Oh,
you can
right.
see what the camera is going to see on the
Right.
set, and you can set up your environment correctly.
Wow.
And I was taught by Harold Michelson, who was a big storyboard artist and production designer. He production designed Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and he storyboarded The Graduate.
Really?
And he was a he was a bigwig in the Illustrators
That
Guild.
was a movie that, except for a few scenes, I would not think. And I know they storyboarded a lot back then,
Yeah,
but that to me speaks to a director's insecurities, not to, because it's not a particularly visually great. I mean, there's that one shot, through Mrs. Robinson's leg, which is great, and there, but everything else was just, seemed like good cinematography, but not like, it's not like a Terry Gilliam or, a Wes Anderson where it's obviously boarded and planned out.
yeah, but his
Interesting.
first few frames were Dustin Hoffman floating past on the floater in the pool,
Right.
and that was
Yes.
every scene was planned out.
Wow.
And of course, Mike Nichols was had done a couple other films before that, but I think this was the first one that he wanted complete control over in
Well,
terms of the look and.
So
and
when you looked at a plan, did you use like, okay, this is what an 18 millimeter, this
we
is what
had we had transparencies that had
yeah.
every camera angle, and we would.
I mean, every
sometimes-
lens field of view.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and it has the
Right.
long way and it has the height in the
Oh,
in the
interesting.
camera angle. So you could plot
And
out
for
exactly where things fell in
would
the
that
shot.
be for like 239 or 185, or did it actually mark like, okay, if you're 4.3 Academy, or I mean, did it show the different?
It
These are all the frame
these are
sizes for people.
these are all the frame sizes and the aspect ratios.
Yes, aspect ratio.
Yes, each camera angle sheet
Had,
called out a specific
Right.
frame size.
but you had to use your imagination of like, because you're looking at a plan view where you're like, okay, so if the shot would show 2 feet off the floor to 9 feet off the floor, and that you're going to have a floor, but you might not have a ceiling on the set, you would know,
Right.
okay, we have to, yeah, interesting.
Well, because you line up the vertical
Right,
on a separate on the elevation, so that you can
right,
see
right.
where it falls in the elevation.
But elevations typically aren't done from all four angles, or were they back then?
But you don't need them to be.
Yeah, okay.
If you have just sort of a center line cut into the set, you can see where things
Right,
go.
yes.
Usually,
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, I
it was very technical and very complicated,
yeah.
and no one does it anymore.
Well, you don't need to. I mean, just the invention of CAD CAM or SketchUp and all those things. You can just. I mean, that's what's great about Unreal Engine. They give you the
Yeah.
lenses. I mean, you can invent your own lens. You could go from a 1, which would be like 280-degree view, I guess,
Yeah.
to a an 800, which would be picking a fly up from a quarter mile away, which is fun. But we try on the show I'm on to pick real world lenses, and
Yeah.
what's fun about it even more so. And again, we can shoot. We might do everything starts out. I guess you'd call it Academy, which is it's not 4:3 exactly, but it's not 16:9.
It used to be 166.
Yes, I think that's what it looks like. And then you can go, all the way to
Hmm.
239 or 233 or
Right.
16:9. And then what's really fun about it, and this is getting deep into the woods or into the weeds, I guess, depending on your point of
Oh,
view.
there's weeds in the woods.
There's weeds in the woods. They're
That
weedy
was a
woods.
musical, I think.
They're witty too. It's witty, weedy woods.
Woody
It's
weeds in the
the
woods.
witty woods. Is a bokeh, a depth of field. So you
Right.
can have, to those who don't know, and it's not common knowledge unless you are a photographer, wide angle lenses have in other words, everything tends to be in focus from about 2 feet to infinity because
Hmm.
it lets so much light in from a wide perspective. Where on longer lenses, the more telephotos, where you're typically, you call it a zoom or you're punching in, it compresses light and also makes your backgrounds blurrier.
Right.
And that's called the depth of field. And again, on a wide angle lens, typically it's almost 2 feet to infinity. And on a long lens, it might be 8 inches, which is why focus
Right.
pulling is such an important job. But in the virtual world, you could have an eight
Any.
millimeter lens with a 2 foot depth of field. So it's great to mock up things like miniatures and stuff. Like you want to look like you're walking around with ants,
Right.
wide angle, but because the room looks enormous, but the depth of field is shallow like it would be. So it's really fun if you know about cameras and all that to like really manipulate it and kind of get stuff you could not get in the real world.
It's funny talking about the depth of field thing. I worked on development for a movie called Downsizing, which eventually came out.
Oh,
And so help me, I can't remember the director, but he's
was it
famous.
a movie or did it come out on
No, it was a
streaming?
movie. It was a movie.
But did it come out on streaming or no?
I guess it did.
Was it People Shrunk Down to go to a resort?
People shrunk down to have their lifestyles be cheaper.
Right, they were shrunk down to go to, yes, it was like Utopia, but it was the size of a football field, but a million people would live
Correct.
there.
Correct.
I saw it advertised on the Netflix or something, so maybe it came out in theaters. I mean, it looked
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it was. But the biggest thing that I helped them figure out before they got a cinematographer on was how to show people small.
Or to
And you
make them
show
look
people small with that tiny depth of
right,
focus.
right,
And because that's what we're used to seeing when we look at like nature photography and things like
right.
that. And it was, it was this really simple thing, but no one had thought of it on the show until
Yeah,
I
it's
said,
not.
well, you could do it this way.
Right, right, right.
And I'm not tooting my own horn as something
Well, you
fabulous,
can toot your own
but it
horn a
was a
little bit.
good
I just
idea.
keep it off camera.
It was a good idea, and sure enough, when they finally got around to doing the movie, that's exactly what happened.
Well, it's like tilt focus. That
Yeah,
thing where it makes landscapes look like miniatures is the same
yeah,
thing. So yeah, well, there was a couple shots where we were like down to the level of mice, and it's the same set. We can't. It's just a virtual set. So I said, well, I just remember like I don't know. Again, I'm not tooting your horn. I'm tooting mine. I just said
toot away.
make it an 8 millimeter lens and make it a foot and a half depth of field relative because or even a 4 inch depth of field. And it looked amazing. They just suddenly looked like they were tiny people, and the room was the size of a
Yeah,
football field, and it works great. Yeah, but that comes from slowly learning lenses and depth of field and focal
right.
length and all.
And
Man, I remember.
and practice with drawing scenes and then realizing what they look like when they actually shoot them.
Right. Well, and that's really where Cat's Eye kind of made me have to learn that.
Right.
I wasn't depth of field. I will say I wasn't really playing with that much, and it was still beyond my limits of experience. I mean, I knew what it meant, but I didn't know. I probably didn't even know then that a wide angle lens. I think he said a wide angle lens, everything tends to be in focus, and a telephoto
Right.
things are blurry. And I was like, okay, but it didn't. I didn't draw things to have blurry. I just was kind of drawing the shot, just
You didn't draw
essentially.
them blurry; it just turned out that way.
Well, that was the drinking that did that. But and that was a movie where the director Lewis Teague was like, "We just don't need to. We're not going to board every dialogue scene. I'll figure that out, blocking
Yeah.
with the actors. But anything where this, we can shoot off the set or it's more controlled,
Right.
or it has to be controlled because we don't have whatever the matte painting or something's going to fill it out. We did board, so I did board a lot of that movie, and that really made me learn more about, I mean, a little bit about framing, but really about lenses and how they affect a shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was Lewis being very kind and not going, why are you storyboarding this? You don't know what, and I would just kind of be dumb enough to go, or smart enough to not let him know how dumb I was.
Right.
Yeah, no, you're right. Sorry, I wasn't thinking.
I
Anyway,
was thinking of something else.
I was thinking of another thing. I was thinking of the F-24.
I was thinking of completely the opposite of what you
The
want.
Hellman Schmelman later on the Fringus.
The
He was
Fringus.
very chill director. He's a really nice guy. I had never,
Nover?
I'd never watched Alligator, and I just watched it recently. It's actually, I thought it was kind of a B movie, which it was, but it was well done.
It's an A movie because it begins with alligator.
See what I got to put up with, folks? This
Yeah, you're lucky to put up with it.
cheap humor.
There's people all over the world that want to put up with me. I can't find them, but
Yes, support a Beardo. That's our ad campaign. This is Daren. He's a lonely
SAB
Beardo.
for merely 15 cents a day, you can help him.
Oh, I was going to say
and
15 cents a second. You can keep Daren in computer software and.
Well, we don't want to be greedy,
Well,
do
why
we?
not? Good at
Maybe
it.
we do. The grated Beardos.
What?
The grated Beardos.
The greeted Beardos. Well, yeah, greeted doesn't
That
convey
doesn't.
greed.
It's not a
Actually.
good. No, it's not a good word.
It sounds like there's some process was put upon us.
Well, that is true.
All right, so storyboards.
Yeah, and
Now,
the
previs is really, I mean, boards they still use, in my experience, in commercials, but movies now, it's all previs. It's all in
Yeah.
Unreal, where they literally, the art department gives the previs guys, here's the sets, here's the dimensions, and you can literally plan out, I mean, I know Fincher does that.
yeah.
His shots, a lot of his shots are like, here's what it's going to look like, and then you match that. It's like the Back to Hitchcock, shoot the previs.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that
which is kind of, I have to say, it's kind of crappy, because it takes out all the happy accidents that would happen on set.
Well, I mean, I think it depends. Like, that's why I say, for effect, and you're doing Mission Impossible and you got those crazy stunts on it, you need a previs that's fairly
Well, yeah,
accurate.
for things that you need to control,
Right.
absolutely.
If it's an actor scene, I don't know why you'd previs it. Like, we're going to dolly across here and, they're going to come up. Then you're kind of relegating your actors to meat puppets, which, some directors.
Well, which they are, but
Well, and again, I came into directing just saying, well, actors know their lines and say them where you put them, and it was like, oh no, I was quickly disabused of that notion. But I did work with like William H. Macy, who's like, where do you want me to stand? What do you want me to say? And I'm like,
yeah,
because the it's my first directing gig, and the puppeteers were all a little wary of like, why am I standing here? I'm like, because the way the set is, and I was going to have the camera do this. I'm like, well, what if I stand over there? I said, well, we'd have to relight
well,
it. Which
don't stand over there.
Yeah.
Just
And
don't
it
stand
wasn't
over
just
there
sharp and say your
and
lines, but there was a lot of pushback with William H. Macy. I'm like, I had dinner with him the night before just to make sure. Like, I mean, this guy, was way above my pay grade. And he's just like, what do you want me to, how do you want me to say it? And I'm like, well, it's kind of, and he just kind of give me a couple of readings. I'm like, yeah, perfect. Where do you want me to stand? I said, well, I thought
Yeah.
you here. And he's like, yeah, okay, great. What if I walked out? Yeah, great. That would be awesome. That was
that's
it.
what makes him a great actor.
Well, and it wasn't his first rodeo, and some of the guys it was their first time doing, Piggy and Fozzie, because Frank wasn't doing the movies anymore. So,
Right. Certainly
yeah.
not with you.
No, with anybody. I mean, he'd retired from. He was rich.
I know. I'm just pulling your leg because I like to press those
I'm
buttons.
just ignoring it because I refuse. Sticks and stones, Daren. Sticks and stones and luxurious leopard jumpers.
That'd
I
be a
look
good
ridiculous in
name.
this.
That'd
I
be a
thought I
good
would
name
look
for a
much
character.
sexier.
Sticks and
What?
Stones.
Sticks and. It does.
This is our son, Stickson. Sticks and Stones.
Sticks and stones. Yes. It always sounds like rich people when you
Yeah.
make the first name a last name. Like this is our son DuPont Manischewitz. If the last name if the first name is the last name, it always makes you sound fancy.
Now, if this week was last week, next week. Never mind.
Yeah, continue. we're even like even our lighting is yours is dark and serious. Mine's like bright and loud. We are who
And
we are.
we're different people, Kirk. We're not the
All
same
we
person.
are is all we are. Oh, sing with me, Darren. All
Nope.
we are is all... No, okay.
No, that
I'll
was
try.
that was 2 episodes ago. No more
You
singing.
sang? Oh, that's true.
We did.
I did
We
have a song
did.
in my heart today before I was singing something,
Yeah.
and it wasn't from How to Succeed in Business. What was it?
I don't
It
know.
was it was delightful. I can tell you that much.
The
That's it.
song
That's all I
"Delightful."
got. Good night, folks.
Kirk Thatcher,
You look
everybody.
like you're gonna read a horror story, like tonight's story
Oh, I may.
on Doctor Doctorman, where I look like I'm being interrogated by a. Maybe I can turn this down.
Tonight on the CBS Radio Mystery Theater, I'm E.G. Marshall.
See that?
There you
That
go.
looks a little. I don't know. It's just
Ah,
there's no in between. It's
there's
either
no there's no in between there.
there's chiaroscuro.
That's
Who
a
threw
that's
that?
an animated animation term. There's no in betweener there. Ah,
Ba-dum-bum. Ba-dum.
I think you look better with more shadow,
All
frankly.
right.
Yeah, you look
It is a
fine.
little, it's easier on my eyes. I'll tell you that
Well,
much.
that's good. Now you can see me. See, that's a
Well,
double-edged sword.
yes, you were completely whited out. I thought you were a blob.
Well, sometimes I feel like
Yeah,
one, but
well,
not
I
today.
feel like a blob. Have you know? Here's a
Sometimes
question.
you feel like a blob. Sometimes you don't.
Sometimes. Boom, 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 boom. I know. So this is being recorded in late February of
Yes.
2024. Since November, not just me, and a lot of my friends have noticed a heaviness, like a weird energy, a heaviness, like a sadness. I mean, people are dying, but it kind of tends to happen a lot in the winter. And we've had, rainy days in LA, but there's something in the zeitgeist. I don't know if it's because it's an election year and there's a lot of drama. I don't know if it's because Russia and Ukraine and China and and Taiwan. I don't know if it's an aggregate of just, you know, that because ostensibly things are, at least in the economy and all that, supposed to be doing really well.
F-
But have you noticed that?
who says they're doing really well?
Well, I mean, the numbers when they say jobs, joblessness is down and
Well,
hiring
yeah,
is
but
up, and
that's because the people out of work have dropped out of getting unemployment.
well, I've heard that. That's true. But the Dow was at almost 40 last week.
Yeah, but people on the Dow don't represent people in the
Well,
country.
and that's what I've always said is like the Dow is like 5% of the country who have enough
Yeah,
money to actually play in the stock market.
yeah.
All right. What so? All right.
Things are
And I'm
bad
not.
for people. Things are bad for people, especially here in
No.
California.
Well, in the industry, I get it, but this was across. And I guess
Across
it's
the
all the
board.
things, just
Yeah,
besides the industry, it's just politics and the world stage and all that.
yeah.
It is,
There's
and
3 or 4 wars going on in the world, and there's
what is
poverty,
not
there's sickness, there's you know
right, which is
it
why
ain't
I
a
choose
it ain't
to
a good report.
focus on nonsense.
That's correct. Sometimes a little nonsense now and then is valued by the wisest men.
Relished, I thought was the original. It's relished by the wisest man.
Perhaps
That's how I
I
learned
could,
it.
I may be wrong.
Well, that's mark the calendars, folks. Dr. Daren been wrong? I the mind boggles. The mind
Yes,
boggles.
yours would.
Oh, oh. The Buggles. Was that the Buggles? Radio killed the radio star?
Uh, Idiot,
Was that the Buggles?
I don't know if it was. I remember the Bugaloos.
Oh God. Ugh. Martha Ray. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, Google. Google hates me today.
Don't say that because people listening will have their Google machines going off all the time.
Okay, Google. Well, mine isn't working, so I hope yours at home is working.
I don't
I think
have
it was.
Google.
I think it was the Buggles. The Buggles.
The
Um.
Boogles?
Anyway, do you know what video killed the radio star? Do you know why that is a noted? Why that has significance in the annals of history?
It was the first video played on MTV.
MTV in 1982, I believe.
Yeah.
81 or 82. Yes, and it was prophetic. In its,
Indeed. Indeed. And
So should we write a song called AI
video
Killed
also
the
killed
Artist?
MTV.
Yeah, so now we should say AI killed the artist.
Hopefully not.
AI killed the creative human.
The
AI
first
killed the
the
creative.
first time I get access to an AI film generator,
Like Sora, yeah.
yeah, like Sora,
Yeah.
I want to ask it to make a version of the movie AI.
Oh,
I want
yeah.
to see what AI does with AI.
What if you asked AI to create a program that would destroy all AI?
I
See?
I'd be willing to
See?
try that.
That's like in
Don't
Star Trek, where it's like, I love you because you're exactly like her. But
that is
we're,
not logical. It
yeah,
does not,
exactly.
Norman, coordinate.
What was our idea for Harry Mudd? We were working on a Star Trek, what are they
We were
calling?
going to do a fan film
Right.
before fan films were canceled.
Oh, I know what my idea was. Well,
We
the
were
one I
going
was
to
showing
do,
you,
yeah,
when I was
where
talking to Terry,
Kirk was going to play
Harcourt.
Harry Mudd,
Reasonable.
and our friend Jeff Bond wrote the script, and it was a lot of fun.
Here
And
was my idea.
it was
My
what?
idea was for Terry Metalis if he was going to do a 23rd, or what is it? When did Picard end? It was the 20, still the end of the 23rd century. It was later than obviously the original series, but
Well, Next Generation was the 24th century.
24th. That's what I thought. So the idea was whatever the successor to Picard was. There, I said I want to do a Harry Mudd episode. I want to play Harry Mudd, and he's like, yeah, but Harry would have been dead. I said not if he robot cloned himself,
That's
but
correct.
doesn't know that he's a robot clone of himself. So he didn't do the women, but he did himself. So he's basically Harry Mudd, like the 13th,
Right,
but he doesn't. He's not. He's like a replicant. He isn't
right.
aware. And so they meet him, and he's acting like Harry Mudd, and they kind of look him up, and they realize, and he could be a biosynthezoid, so he could be have biological. So it's not like robotic
Biological parts.
parts. But we thought that would be a really fun episode where you get to bring back that character and not the Rainn Wilson version, which I didn't really.
Yeah.
He didn't seem like Harry Mudd. I mean, he's the alternate universe Harry Mudd. But we were going to do the classic, Roger C. Conlon. Can be reasonable. And I said that was my pitch, and he goes, "That's a good. If you're going to do it, that's the way to do it." So, fingers crossed,
Yeah.
and eyes.
Ah. You're voguing again. Our
I do
our
that.
audio listeners are wondering what the heck is going on there. And you're just going to have to come over to YouTube and watch. That's all.
I'm what the kids today like to call beat boxing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about storyboards. We touched on AI last week.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what. I mean, I think we kind of covered it. I don't know. Again, I'm sort of being open minded. Let's talk about UAPs and UFOs, and that's been on the news. I mean, I grew up. I mean, loving science fiction, but also loving, In Search of and all the sort of.
Absolutely. My dad was
Nerd.
very heavy into the UFO stories. And he saw one in, I believe, 1957.
Oh wow.
And he had his library was filled with UFO books. And he actually became friends with J. Allen Hynek in the mid 80s. And I got to
Wow.
meet and talk with J. Allen Hynek quite a bit.
Did he reveal the truth about Blue Book?
Yeah, the truth is it's all a lie. No.
Blue Book is, well, we know
No, Blue Book wasn't a lie. But the great thing about Hynek was that he he was the shill for the government for years and years. He ran
that. Right.
Project Blue Book, and he is the one famously blaming sightings on swamp gas and all these other ludicrous explanations.
Right. The
But
whole.
after a while, he began to see these reports that just didn't make any sense unless they were, quote, UFOs.
Right.
And so he left Blue Book and became a proselytizer for the UFO phenomenon.
Right.
And the the interesting thing was that because he was an actual scientist and professor at
Right.
Evanston, Northwestern, and he never said anything about them being from outer space or
Right.
aliens or anything. He simply didn't know,
Right.
and he knew that there was something that people were seeing,
Right.
and he knew that there weren't conventional explanations for it.
Right.
But beyond that, he didn't hypothesize about what they were.
Right.
But
Which, I mean, the thing that always irked me, again, I'm the same. I mean, not only science fiction movies and TV, but actual science, I was a huge fan of. And UFOs, I'm like, to me, it was, I've always said, why don't we study the placebo effect? If it cures 25% of all diseases,
right,
or whatever the number is, but it's a high, it's not like 3%, it's up in the 20th percentile for a lot of things. Like, why aren't we studying that? Well, because the whole thing is like, but that is a thing. The fact that it's not a drug and there's no money in it shouldn't be, and
right,
that's kind of was UFOs. Either it's a big cover up, but
right.
all the scientists, like the Neil deGrasse Tysons, are like, oh, poo poo, it's impossible. I'm like, yeah, it was
Yeah, Carl
impossible.
Sagan was the same. Carl Sagan
Right.
was the same.
Well, I'd heard an interesting, again, this is the rabbit hole of ufology,
Yeah,
which was that Sagan was a shill and was told to go out there and say, there's no possible way that beings could travel the great distances, and what deGrasse Tyson kind of carries on in his footsteps of saying, pish posh, that's not possible. But any real science with that much anecdotal evidence, and now military,
yeah,
I mean, you talk to any pilot, when I was a kid, because I had a huge interest in UFOs, and a friend of my mom's was one of the first female pilots in the military, and she was a family friend, and I think her last name was Foy. Anyway, I asked her, I said, "Do you ever see UFOs? You guys ever?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, every pilot. We all have stories." And I said, "Why? Why?" And she goes, "We're just told to not talk about it."
right,
Because she said, if you file a report, you have to get debriefed, and it's a whole pain in the ass. And the answer is, I don't know what it was. I just saw a silver disc, or I saw three balls of light. And you just don't want to have to deal with that, because then you'll get a reputation for either being drunk or
or a
So she goes, they
crackpot.
just don't say anything. They talk
Right.
about it over drinks and, in the squad room but yeah. And I was like, really? And she told me this when I was like 12 or 13. And then every time I meet a pilot, whether it's commercial or private or ex-military in particular, they're like, oh yeah, we see stuff all the time. So it is crazy. There's this huge cover up. There's really nothing else I can think of in human history where it has been derided to the point of, people are afraid to talk about it. Except maybe something the Catholic Church said was heresy, but I
Right.
can't even think of that. So, I mean, real scientists should study it, and I guess, so it's kind of fallen to the scientists who are not employed by the military or the government, and it
Right.
has to be a hobby because they're all terrified of getting, booted, and I know there was
Or of getting close to the truth.
yeah, which could be even scarier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a guy who's been a huge smear campaign, but he has, he's like a cockroach. He is, what's his name? Who was at Area 51 and came out in the,
Oh,
yeah,
Lazar,
Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar.
I
Yeah.
remember in the 80s when that came out, it was huge news all over the news. And then there was a documentary saying, oh, he's a kook and he doesn't
Yeah.
have any history and he's just making it all up. And then documents came forward that say, nope, here it is. Here's his paycheck stub.
New information has come to
Nope,
light,
yeah,
man.
new information's come to light, man. Uh, and suddenly now he's being interviewed and respected again. And there was a documentary about him recently that kind of was like, you would be the judge, But
Right.
and then all the stuff that's been coming. So then again, I'm sure people who are listening are, if you're not a fan of this, it's a rabbit hole that, I mean, I've spent my life digging up and can quote, I mean, not just Hynek, but, I mean, God, all the names, Stanton Freeman. And,
Right.
I mean, I remember I went with my mom to the Van Nuys Women's Club in the 70s to listen to George Adamski,
Right.
who had written a few of the early books. Now if you read them now, like, okay, this guy was crazy. Or, I mean, it was like my friend Lilo from Venus, and they had
Right.
green cows there. I mean, it was crazy stuff, but it really was like Close Encounters, where there are people getting together, going, yeah, I heard a Bigfoot once made a sound I wouldn't want to hear twice, and
Right.
and kind of like normal folks seeing these things. And it's you live in interesting times, and that stuff combined with all the AI stuff, it's really interesting times. I mean, I don't know if it's there's every version of the story of why we're hearing more about it now. Either because everyone has access to cameras and things, or the military or the black ops or whatever, they're trying to control the release of information because it's getting out.
Hmm.
So, all right. And, Stephen Greer, who's a big guy who's been, he's the one who got the congressional hearings and got
Right.
congressmen to go, and I think he got like 150 people to sign affidavits saying, I worked with UFOs, I've seen UFOs, I took crash sites, I
Right.
doctored photos of the moon surface that showed stuff. I mean, a preponderance of evidence that you couldn't just be like, well, these guys are all crazy and they're doing,
Right.
because no one made a
No,
dollar off it.
they
Yeah.
can't all be crazy, and they can't all be part of the conspiracy.
Right. So when anyone now, whether they're an armchair scientist like I am, or a science, but they're like, oh, please, there's no possible way that any being could travel those distances, and they never say, well, what if they're interdimensional? Well, there is
Right.
no distance. What if they're just phasing in and out of different dimensions?
Right.
Which sounds like what kind of mushrooms did you take? But that a lot of people, I think, the guy from France who was portrayed, or a character like him was
Right.
portrayed in
Who
Close
was
Encounters.
Lacombe? Yeah. It's
Jacques Vallée.
Jacques Vallée. Yes.
Jacques Vallée. Um, he's the one who, I think, one of his theories, which I think might be wrong, but I know I was told he ascribes to it, is that they're interdimensional beings, not
Right.
physical. They're not come from a planet in our solar system.
Right.
And then
We are
there's the
we are
cloud.
just seeing three-dimensional representations of their actual
Right. Whatever they
being.
are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, ship might be the wrong word.
Right.
Um, and
The funny
yeah,
thing is,
so it's
as you know, I got to know Doug Trumbull pretty well over the
yeah.
past few years, and we would often have like 5-hour dinners just talking about stuff. One time, he started asking me, so when you were working with Robert Wise on the director's edition, this was back in 2000,
Yeah.
he said, did he ever talk about the day the Earth stood still being something that was supposed to prep people
Yes.
into the actual
Up in the
arrival?
public's acceptance of the idea, yeah.
Yeah. And I said, no, he never mentioned something like that. But, you of all people should be asking this question when Close Encounters is a way bigger prep
Yeah.
for the arrival of aliens. And he said, oh, yeah, I guess that's true. He hadn't
Wow.
realized that.
Yeah. You did
But
work on it, right? You're that
yeah,
guy.
right. You are that guy, aren't you?
That's
Yeah, but
fascinating.
that was fascinating because I was realizing, well, he doesn't know any more than anybody does, apparently, or he's
Well,
really good at faking it.
the best story I heard, I don't think I shared this on our show. Did I tell you about the friend was kind of his parents were hippies. He lived up in Berkeley. Brent Friedman, who we went to. I hope I'm not outing him, but it's a great story, and he did create the TV series Roswell about the teenagers who were.
Right.
So his parents were kind of hippie beatniks, and didn't throw the ball or anything. With his dad was more of like a peacenik or herbal granola kind of guy. So the next door neighbor, or the guy 2 doors down, had 2 daughters, and he was like all American, played football, and so he taught Brett how to throw the football, and was kind of like Brett was sort of his surrogate son because he didn't know
Right.
he had daughters. And that guy was a lawyer, and he became part of Reagan's cabinet when Reagan became president. And so when we were in college, he went out to visit. Brett went back to D.C. for some reason and went to see that fellow and his wife and daughter, because they'd moved out there, and he was living in, was it Langley, Virginia, where they all the military.
Right.
Yeah, so he drove to the house. He had to get through a gate, get his ID scanned. Went to the house, waited for the dad to come home. The dad came home and was followed by a black unmarked car, just the classic Men in Black kind of thing. He got out of the car, and he had, I think I'm probably screwing up some of the details, but there was something about like he had a suitcase handcuffed to him, and they uncuffed it and took it. But I'm like, why wouldn't they do that? Something. There's something about a suitcase with files. And the guys asked, who were you? And he said, it's okay. He's a family friend and whatever. So the dad went in, and he said his demeanor had changed. He was, not that he hadn't been serious, but he said he looked haggard. I said, well, I was working for Reagan. It was like 2 years into the Reagan presidency. He said, yeah, there was some weird vibe. So we had dinner, and he said, hey, let's go out on the porch and have a drink. And he said this guy never drank. Like, growing up with him, he never. And so he poured 2 pretty good-sized tumblers of scotch. And they sat on the porch. And he said the guy's hand was a little shaking. And he said to my friend, he goes, all that stuff you're into? And Brett and I were, when we were friends, because we, like you and I, we talk about UFOs and aliens and science fiction.
Yep.
And Brett said, yes. And that's all. He didn't say science fiction, UFO, anything. He just said that stuff you're into. He goes, it's all true and more. And he goes, really? Like what? He goes, I can't tell you, but you have no idea.
Wow.
And he said he drank himself to go to sleep. He just kept drinking and went to sleep. And I don't know if he ever saw him again. But yeah, he was in the Reagan, all 8 years of the Reagan administration, I guess. He said that to him was this, without pictures or anecdotes or anything, was more terrifying or damning than any, pictures of a silver disc. It was just this guy. And, the Reagan story out of ufology is the classic one of the transcripts of Reagan being debriefed on the 8 species that we know and how long humanity has been affected by aliens, and the premise that humanity was actually spawned or hybridized out of whatever, Neanderthals or Denisovans or whatever was here, and kind of, uplifted, if to use a David Brin word, into the more sentient beings to be the whole Zechariah Stitchin, what are they called? The Anunnaki.
Right.
That they were a race who uplifted humans to make us smarter, so we could originally be like a slave race to work and dig gold or whatever they needed done mining on the planet. And then there was, I love all these stories because whether you believe them or not, they're great stories. If you like science fiction, that there was a falling out between these 2 brothers, Enki and Enlil. And this predates the Egyptian. This is like pre-Sumerian, but the Sumerian tablets are what enumerate these stories. And that one of them was like, no, we should just kill. We're done with them. We don't need them. Let's just wipe them out and take them back to the Stone Age. And the other one said, no, they're sentient now. They have souls. We can't do that. That's not right. And then bad karma. And so he fought, and there was a war between these brothers. And then the one that didn't like us left, and we were allowed to then kind of go on our own way. Maybe being monitored by. It's a great story. It's just such a great. It's much more interesting than. A bunch of monkeys.
And the other one was chained to a rock where ravens would eat his liver every day, and then he would grow it back and go through the same torture the next day.
But they are great stories. Again, I would never bet a dime that they were true, but they are fascinating, and I love them. And what I love about all of it is, and people are like, don't have an open mind or your brains fall out. But I think. If you have an open mind, but you're not, wearing the tinfoil hat or, building the bomb shelter or the altar to the aliens to land, then it's all very plausible. And, who's defined possibility? I don't know.
The other question is, why aren't you wearing the tinfoil hat?
This is foil lined. I just
these rays are coming at us every day.
I don't want people to think I'm crazy. Yeah, it's funny though. You talk about that. I had a dear friend whose girlfriend was on, I think she was on Adderall. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't seen, they had broken up, but we were all still friends. And she had contacted me on Facebook and said, we need to get the word out. The president is talking to me every night. He's beaming information into my head. And just these and her Facebook page became filled with this, and it was like, what's happening? And she literally went to that classic schizophrenic mind state of like, I am being beamed information. The president, this is when Trump was president, is giving me this information, and we need to get it out. And there's good people and there's bad people trying to quell it, and it's that classic. I had another friend I went to junior high with, and he became schizophrenic. And same thing, the police have bugged the walls in my house. They do it. When the electrician came and re-put in the, what do you call it, the receptacles, the
Right.
power wall sockets. They bugged it, and they've given me cancer, and it's just that classic sort of paranoid. And it's like, wow, all those stories and movies and things. It's based in actual, true,
True facts.
a true fact, yeah. But it's weird when it's someone you know, because
Yeah.
your first instinct is like, well, I believe, of course I believe you. You're my friend. You're not a crazy person. And you realize, oh no, they have gone crazy, which is what the government used with disinformation and kind of gaslighting people who
Yeah.
did experience UFOs,
Literally gaslighting people.
literally gaslighting them, or just gassing them, but
Yeah.
giving them. Who's the guy? Not Richard Doty. Is it Doty? Who said he worked for the CIA or NSA, and would knowingly give people bullshit stories, or even create documents to
To see where it
fool
would
people.
go.
Yeah, well, and to just guide people off the whatever the truth
Right.
was, and make them kind of go crazy. So it's an interesting world. Thank God I know who's talking, sending me the messages, and it's all 100% true.
Well, I just want to remind you that I don't beam information to anybody that is a loser. No losers beamed
They're
information.
losers. All the information I get is from China.
China.
China. China. It's
Lots of
sad though.
UFOs from China.
It is sad though when someone that you've known since you were 12 is on the phone with you 2 hours telling you this long story, exhaustive detail. It's the detail that gets you.
Yeah.
It's not like, yeah, the guys are in my head. It's like, no. When the electrician came and they changed the things, I noticed, and I unscrewed it and there was a red wire there. You're like, okay, well, it doesn't need to be there.
There's
So
no
maybe it wasn't
ordinary red
ground.
wire.
No, you don't need to ground. Every possible explanation has an answer, and so it's impossible to. I wouldn't even say reason with them, but kind of get them to go, yeah, but couldn't that be this? Couldn't that
Right.
just be? I don't know. No.
Right. They're on a very straight train ride.
So mental illness is sad, even though it can be funny in a movie. It's sad.
Right. So
Right, Darren?
don't make fun of mentally ill people. Like
Well, unless they're really funny, don't. Give them your support, but also make sure they're not near any buttons that might cause problems.
and certainly stay away from the outlets.
Well, they're all bugged. Have you seen there's actually a gadget you can buy on Amazon now that will supposedly scan for cameras and mics? Like, I guess it picks up a frequency or something. And they said, yeah, you just walk around the room and it beeps.
Well, I would hope so. I mean, James Bond has had one for years.
Yeah. I've never thought of doing it in my hotel rooms.
You mean looking for bugs?
Looking for bugs. I mean, I don't know why they bug it. I don't even talk to myself, so.
Well, that's why they're curious.
What does
Who is
say
he
himself?
talking to? What information is being beamed into his noggin?
Nothing. Literally, information's getting sucked out. I'm forgetting more than I'm remembering. You're the one with the mind like a
We want
steel trap.
information.
Mine's like a steel sieve.
That's right.
Mine like a steel sieve.
Have you ever seen a UFO?
God, no. I went out. I had a friend who was crazy, which I didn't know, but he was very into ufology. I met him at a UFO thing, and he said, I know where they show up. And I'm like, okay. He goes, this place out in Malibu. You go out at night and you wait, and I always see a UFO there. So I'm like, cool. I mean, well, what does it cost me? A couple hours in a car. And we went out there, and he was a rich kid, he was a trust fund kid. And so we went out there, and we sat in the car for like 4 hours, thinking, yeah, this is crazy. Guess we just picked the wrong
Guess they're just
night.
not coming out tonight.
So then I went out one more time with them, and it was like, yeah, maybe your energy, like you're
You
maybe
got
more
bad
skeptical.
energy.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, I'm not skeptical. I'm giving up an evening to sit in a car with a weird dude. Anyway, yeah, it came out later that he was crazy, and so it was sad because I was excited. But I have dear friends who've seen ships. A couple of them seen multiple times.
Hmm.
It's I don't know. I don't doubt anybody who's seen anything unless especially if I know them to be basically a reliable source. And I
Yeah,
know just regular people. I mean, the one stories that I always find interesting, the guys that were like cops or military, and they don't, they're not Star Trek fans.
yeah.
They're basically, fairly
Workaday guys. Yeah.
neurotypical, yeah. And they see this and they're like, I don't know what the hell it was. I didn't see any little green men, but I saw this thing that did things that I know you can't do in any airship that we have, or any, coming out of the ocean. And there's enough. That's the stuff you need. 20 guys on a ship or a submarine or whatever, and they're like, yeah, okay. And it's not swamp gas or ball lightning or it's a mistaken satellite. It's just those things don't do that.
I had ball lightning once. Wasn't wasn't good.
I lightened my ball. Never mind.
I'm uh, I'm glad those UFOs are out there. I take comfort in that.
I just wish they would hurry up and divulge their
Do
tweet
something.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
Whatever they're gonna do, they better do it soon.
well, again, this is a script I always wanted to write. Basically, essentially, like the aliens were here last week, and now it's like Kim Kardashian had her anus bleached, and that's the new. It's like I think, literally, if they landed on the White House lawn and said we're the Frimracks, and this is what we do, and we've been screwing with you guys, but we want to come forward and make peace and help you. In 3 weeks, it would just be a column on the Google News page, like the stock market. What's happening with the Frimracks?
Yeah.
This week, they cured cancer.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
And they're down 3 points.
The AMA is furious and said that their techniques are going to cause more cancer. Yeah.
Yeah. Pfizer's really pissed off at them.
It's like the cars that run on water. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a hydrogen generator using water is like, I mean, there's a high school experiment. And
Yeah.
a number of guys have done it over the years, and every time they die mysteriously, or suddenly they just are not available to be found, or they move to a
Or
foreign country.
suddenly their shops exploded.
Yes, well, the classic one was Meyer, the Robert Meyer something Meyer engine, and he died. I knew he had died under mysterious circumstances, and I just heard the actual anecdote. He was at dinner with Belgian businessmen, I think, or European businessmen. I think at his house, if not at a restaurant. He suddenly started coughing, and got violently ill, and he ran out, and his wife followed him, and he said something like, they poisoned me, and he died like that day.
Wow.
And then 2 weeks later, his shop was raided and everything stolen, and the thing burned down. I mean,
Couldn't do nothing
coincidence?
about it.
Yeah, nothing to see here, folks.
We got
Just,
no
it was a
problem. No
faulty,
problem.
faulty
Just,
fuse.
they're ordinary people. Don't worry about it. Go back to your homes.
Go
Stay there.
back, kid. Buy a Chevron. It's got Techron in it. It's good for your valves.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
that's the thing. I end up every day when I get deep in this stuff and go, oh, it's so cool. I wish so. You're just like, yeah, but it's what I call the what's for lunch syndrome. Is like, all right, I'm completely sure that the government knows more about UAPs or UFOs than they're letting on.
I hope
Whether
they do.
What's that?
I hope they do.
No, I think there's enough, enough smoke. There's got to be a fire, but also that we probably have had, infinite energy devices or things that can. I mean, I know we have engines that can run on water. Like if you just had enough money, you could build one. It's turning water into hydrogen and oxygen is easy. But just the powers that be, it's sort of like you can't fight City Hall. It's just like, all right, I'm just a guy, and I'm always impressed with people who try, but it's like, yeah, don't fight the mafia either.
Well,
You might be right and they might be wrong in doing something illegal, but if you're really going to go up against them,
yeah, no, not a good idea. Well, the
yeah,
good news is that the next big war will be fought over water, so we don't have to worry about that.
yeah. Well, we live next to an ocean. I know there's a new. Again, I'm a science junkie, and I'm always seeing the new inventions. There's supposedly a new, incredibly low energy usage version of, I guess the Israelis invented it for desalinating seawater. That
Yeah.
normally it was like it's so energy intensive that it's not worthwhile
Right.
yet. But now they're saying there's just a very simple thing that essentially just uses a pressure differential.
Apparently,
And
all you need to do is run it through a coffee filter. You're good.
yeah, a little carbon, a
Who
little
knew?
charcoal in there, you're good to go.
Yeah.
And then the battery tech. I mean, that's another thing I watched. You know, these new
Right.
battery storage. Both mainly it's the rare earth or not rare earth materials. Something like an aluminum salt battery or something that's been raved about. And usually it's like it works great except in volume, or it works great except it overheats when it's more
Except
than
if
a.
you try to use it.
Well, but there's obviously a ton of money in solving that problem, so that's why there's a lot of research going into it. So I have high hopes in the next 10, 15 years that if we don't nuke ourselves off the face of the earth, that AI will be solving problems as well as creating them, but we'll also have fairly inexpensive and robust electric vehicles because it just makes sense.
Right.
Solar power, now they're getting up to 30 and 40% efficiency for panels. There's these new kind of Fibonacci spiral wind turbines
Right.
that are like 400% more efficient for what the space they use and the power they generate, even with a slight breeze. So all
And
that
they
stuff.
and they chop up flying birds really well.
All the American Eagles. Pretty soon there's going to be no more American Eagles because those. Well, but these wind type turbines are like the size of a mini fridge. They're not giant and they're really efficient. They're saying like you could have 6 of them on your roof, and it doesn't matter if they're under shade or anything, and you could
Wow.
generate the same amount of power as like covering half your roof in solar panels.
Well,
So the future is so bright. I've got to wear
gotta wear
stupid
shades.
hats.
Stupid hats. That's not stupid. That's not a
Kind of
stupid
stupid.
hat.
I love it.
Now the sweater, that's a little stupid. But
I just got a horrible foot cramp. I don't know why. I've just been sitting.
as opposed
Probably
to a pleasing foot cramp.
it was a delightful foot cramp.
I just had a delightful foot cramp.
I named it Crampy.
Jane
Oh,
Crampian.
oh my God! Have we filled an hour of bullshit? Yeah, I mean, not. I mean, a delightful chatter.
As always, we don't run out of things to talk about
Oh God!
until now, until this one moment.
Really? Where are we? Where are we in the hour?
We're 2 minutes away.
Oh, okay. I mean, I figured we were close.
Oh, we're
The
close.
old clock in the back of the noggin is beeping. Well, what do we close out with? A rousing song of 99 bottles of... No.
The thing is that we, again, want to hear what our audience wants to know.
We do,
So,
yeah. I mean, we can talk. Obviously, I think we've proven we can talk about everything except women's issues because that we're just not well.
no. I mean, we will, but we're
I
not
mean,
qualified.
I'm often told what women's issues are with me, but that's not.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
But definitely send us an email at theweirdedbeardos, all one word, at gmail.com, and we will respond either via email or on the podcast.
Yes, we will respond in kind.
We will respond.
I don't. Or will we email her? I think I would save it for this, for live. I mean, unless it's filthy or personal.
Well, especially if it's filthy. What?
Dear Kirk, I have your 3 children. I wish you would come and visit them.
Signed, Daren.
I told you, Darren, lizards are not children. They're not biologically related to me, so you're lying.
I found a lizard in my apartment the other day.
How did you find him? Delightful.
It was wonderful companion.
He was delicious. I got to hold a bearded dragon last night. I know it sounds like a euphemism.
Is that what she said it was?
She said it was. It was dark. It was scaly. It was, oh my God. Yeah, no, it was a really adorable one named Shiva. And beardies are
bearded dragon.
the weirded bearded dragons. Yes, the weirded beardo dragon. Anyway, she was delightful. She had a big tummy, and I just held her kind of against on my chest, and they love the warmth, the human warmth.
Right.
But it was a real sweetie. Bearded dragons are great. I had bearded dragon and iguana growing up, and they were lovely, lovely, lovely lizard companions.
You touched on the tagline for The Thing. Man is the warmest place to hide.
Was that the thing? It was.
Yeah,
It also worked for Alien, I guess. But
sure,
what
but
did
you
you
can't
think of the what did you think of the reboot? No, well, there's been two reboots. I guess there was the
of
original,
The Thing.
the one that was done in the 2000 and somethings,
Yeah, and then there was a prequel.
and the Carpenters. Oh, the prequel.
That yeah, that was a prequel. They followed the Swedish team who discovered it.
Oh, that's right. I'd forgotten that.
Yeah.
That's right, because it ends with the husky running across the. Yeah.
Here's a
Oh,
here's a
I mean, it was
controversial
fun.
it's a controversial statement that maybe we can pick up on our next episode. I'm not a fan of The Thing.
Of any of them.
I, no, and primarily because of the makeup monster effects.
Because they show too much. It's like they take away the mystery of the.
I think they're just too puppety
Well,
for me.
yeah. I Well, I will say this: the original. What's great about it is if you you don't know who's an. I mean, they all. It can look. It's a perfect mimic. So who goes there? The original short story is like
Sure,
that's creepy as hell.
it can mimic puppets.
It can, yeah. So Carpenter's like, well, let's have fun with it and show the interim stage where it's
Yeah,
turning to something.
yeah,
I
I like
liked it. I
that.
like creature stuff. It's kind of funny and it was a little campy. I don't know.
And frankly, I think both of them are The Thing at the end.
Oh yeah, it's McCready and.
Yeah,
But then
and
why wouldn't it
what's
just
his name?
say, "Hey man, we both know. We both
Because
know."
because they don't realize.
Oh, is it? See, I thought the thing had to know. If you were the thing, you had to be aware of it because why else would you, go mutate and try and kill other people
Maybe
or take?
just to survive.
Well,
They have the
if you know
same
why.
survival instincts as a man. So,
Interesting.
why
That's an
not?
interesting theory. Yeah.
I don't know.
There's
It's not
suppose there's a
not
there's a
true.
deep cut about like there's some close up on McCready's eyes or something that says which one is actually the thing, but.
His eyes don't reflect back at the camera like Blade Runner, do they?
Here you go. We were talking about.
Rick Deckard is The Thing. That solves all
I
that.
hear they're making. Well, we're running out of time. Like, well, this is all stuff we can talk about next
This is
time
true, and we will next
on the
time.
weirded Beardos.
Just think of it, a next
When you
time.
hear Kirk say, "Does this hat make my face look stupid?"
And Daren says, "Yes."
Absolutely.
See you
Thanks,
next
folks.
time.
Thanks for hanging with us. I apologize for most of it.
He says these things. He doesn't really believe them. Next time.